This is Vicki Romaine with Cheerful Greetings, and today I thought we'd do something a little different. I have a block of beeswax here, and we're going to make some parchment paper. If you notice at the corner there, I've gotten a little bit of it out, and I haven't used very much of this block, but I have put a little bit in my melting pot, and then out in very big pieces, as I had to chisel it off with a X-Acto knife to get my pieces in the melting pot. I'm going to be working with the wax in a different way from most people. Most people will put the little granulated pieces of beeswax on top of the piece of what they're working on. While in my case, I don't have any of those pieces. I'm just getting it straight from the beeswax block of wax. So mine are in pieces, but it's only because that's the only way I could chisel it off. Instead of pouring the little granulated pieces of wax on top of the designer paper, I'm going to be painting it on with a brush. And I use the same brush over and over. That way I won't ruin all my brushes. And after I finish, it gets stiff and it's hard to work with. But once I put it into the hot wax, those bristles soften up because the wax on the bristles are melting too. Here's my designer paper after I have painted it with the beeswax. Now I want to make sure it is smooth and that the wax got on all of the paper. So what I'm going to do is get me a piece of parchment paper, like the one underneath it, and I'll be putting it on top. Both pieces of parchment paper, the one on the bottom and the one on the top, are much larger than the designer paper. And I did this purposely because I didn't want any of the wax to come off the paper that I was using to protect the tabletop. I'm using a iron with to melt this wax. I'm using an iron on the lowest setting to melt this wax. And what I'm doing is trying to blend it from one area to the other so the whole designer paper is covered. And here's what we see. As a piece, it looks nice. And I'm going to pull the piece off the parchment paper. Now, it does not have a true parchment look because of the dark background. But if you hold it up, you can see there's some translucency there. Also, you can definitely tell that it's a piece of parchment by the way it feels and how it reacts to your moving it around. So I'm pleased with this piece, and we will make another one in just a moment as soon as I get this one put away. Now I'm getting ready to do another piece of designer paper, and this is much lighter. It's kind of like a advertisement in a newspaper, so it will have an entirely different look after I put the wax on it. Now in this case, this is cardstock, and so it's going to react a little differently when you pick it up and move it and bend it than the designer paper. This cardstock is actually double-sided, so I'm anxious to see how the underside looks. Well, I'm almost through here, which is good because I'm just about out of wax in my melting pot. Now I cover my cardstock with the parchment paper, and I'm going to use the iron again to quickly blend the wax so it won't be all in one spot, and hopefully it'll be all over the entire piece of cardstock. Again, I'm going to quickly use the iron to blend or smooth out the wax on my cardstock. My melting pot is just about empty, and I need to go over the cardstock with a little more wax. I missed a couple of places. Now, as you can see, I have to literally chisel the wax off of my block of beeswax. I'm finishing up my touch-up now by going back over it with the iron. Here is my finished piece, and I'm very, very pleased with it. It feels just like parchment paper. It's a heavy parchment paper. I missed a little corner up there, but that's okay. And the back looks a little bit like I put too much wax in one spot. But on the whole, they did pretty well. As I said, the brown one that is designer paper will be more like parchment paper than this one, because this is heavier. As you can see, my piece turned out pretty well, and it's fairly translucent. You can see the light through it. And now we're going to do something entirely different. I've got a piece of designer paper here. It's on the light side, and I'm going to be putting a napkin on it. So let me get the layers of the napkin off the front. Most napkins have 2 to 3 backings. And what I did was take a piece of tape and got the napkin started. And it just happened that this napkin had 3 layers, and I just took the last layer of the plain part off. I had used the wax in my melting pot, so I had to put some more in here. And it's beginning to melt, but not completely yet. But I can get enough out from the edges that's already melted to put on my napkin. And I'll do the same procedure as I did before. What I'm doing is getting the napkin saturated with the wax. And then I'll be using the iron. I'm taking that same parchment paper and putting it on top of the napkin and the designer paper. Don't forget that the designer paper is underneath my napkin. I skipped the step where I ironed the wax into the napkin and designer paper, because I know you've seen it a couple of times now, and I don't want to bore you with doing it again. So now I'm pulling the finished product off of the parchment paper. I have now trimmed the napkin to fit the piece of designer paper, as my napkin was much larger than the designer paper. I'm very pleased the way this turned out. You can see the lines of the designer paper in the background. The napkin is translucent. Here we have my last piece that I'm going to do today. And I think this will turn out great because it has a white background. Now, next time, in my next video, I will show you what I can make from these pieces of waxed cardstock and designer paper. So you'll have to come by and see what I've done. And many times the things that I make can be used both in cards and on junk journal covers and pieces of primer for the insides of my journals. I have mentioned it before, and I'll say it again, that a lot of the things I do can be used both in junk journals and cards. So come back next time and see what I've made with these pieces of waxed paper and cardstock. I didn't show much working with designer paper that had the roses on it, but you will see it a little later in this video. This is a piece of paper that I put a napkin on, and I am in the process now of cutting the extra pieces of napkin away from the designer paper. The napkin was larger than the paper. Here are my finished pieces. Each one is different from the other. Some are lighter, some turned out darker than what I expected. I'm real pleased with this one, and I think this is really pretty. I wish the flowers had not been in a circle. And this, I think, is my favorite of all of them. And then, of course, I've got the dark one. This one does have great texture, so I think I can find plenty of uses for it. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope it wasn't too long and boring for you, but I wanted to show different ways that you could use your wax. And you can tell that I've made quite an assortment here. If you did enjoy this, please come back next time and see what I'll do with these papers that have been waxed. They look pretty much like parchment paper, the feel and everything. I hope you will try this technique, as it is loads of fun. And there's many things you can make with papers like this. And here's my array of papers. I hope you like what they look like now. I hope to see you next time. In the meantime, have a great crafting day. Bye.